a podcaster. And by the way, she just started in March of 2025. So if you're new into getting into the space and you've already did all of the groundwork, there could be opportunities for you in the very near future. So we're getting into all of those things. But before we do, I am Dani Marie, podcast host, podcast strategist, your mentor, the podcast princess, your podcast bestie. I host the podcast platform Plan to Podcast because we do believe that before you ever purchase your first equipment or before you think about what your episode title should be, you should have a concrete plan. So we emphasize that because a plan is what is going to help you be sustainable as an indie podcaster. We also have the group Plan to Podcast on Facebook. It is a thriving community. We're opening something very cool, Mike Masters, a mentorship program where you have direct access to me every month. And so more of that will come down the pipeline. But the best way for you to connect with us is through our website, Plan to Podcast. That is www.plan, PLANTO2 podcast, podcast.com. I'm streaming on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch, and now on Substack. And so some of you on Substack, this is your first time encountering me. I sometimes like to be in front of my fireplace because this is my safe space, my happy place, um, my warm place. But I'm also tentatively speaking, sometimes over there on my kitchen table. We're building a podcast studio. And so now that we're finally back in and things are settled, we had a flood last year and we're out of the home for the entire summer. So now that things are settled, I've never had a podcasting space for myself. So I'm excited to actually get into my own space. I do have a very cool feature that if you comment studio, I'm happy to send this to you. Comment the word studio if you want my GPT to upgrade your podcasting studio space. So with the help of ChatGPT, I gave them the dimensions of the space that I want to recreate and turn into my podcast studio. So I gave them the dimensions. I uploaded a photo and I told them what equipment I already have and what I'm looking to do. And sure enough, that good old ChatGPT revamped the entire space, made it very simple and sleek. And I'm excited to actually take you guys on that project with me when we get into the development of that project. So comment the word studio if you need to revamp your space like I do. But soon you'll see me with my whole shebang. But I'm very comfortable in front of my fireplace. Thank you very much. So before we get into all of the things of the next 45 minutes together, I do have to give a community MVP shout out. So these are members that come directly from our podcast community on Facebook. Again, Plan to Podcast. Shout out to Alexis. Let's go ahead and give her a spotlight. And then after that, we'll get into today's content.
Hey, voters and readers. I am Lisa Swing Lawrence. I am a reader, a reviewer, and a podcaster. And I love to talk about the book that I absolutely enjoy. That's where the lines where every love story shines. Dive into worlds of joy and bliss. Nothing else you can't dismiss. Legs between the lines where books and romance intertwine. You lost the story that touch your heart. Legs between the lines, a brand new start. Pages turn stories of hope. Love adventures both new and old. We used to pass the flame.
So that is Lex Between the Lines. She does podcast. She does book reviews on her podcast. So if you are an avid book reader, if you love book reviews and you want to have a great time, I encourage you to go and follow Alexis. And one thing I do recall is that I forgot this time around to add her link, but I will try to make that accessible to you by the end of this live. If not, at the end of the live, you can visit the comment section of this video to access her direct Spotify page. And the reason why we're shouting out Alexis is not because she's viral or flashy or doing the most. It's because she is consistent, showing up engaging in community with us, applying what we're learning and asking thoughtful questions, and building quietly and intentionally. This is exactly what sustainable podcasting looks like in real time. So, shout out to Alexis again. Let's go ahead and replay that.
I am Gladys and Reader. I am Lisa from the Lines. I am a reader, a reviewer, and a podcaster. And I love to talk about the book that I absolutely enjoy. Every love story shines. Dive into worlds of joy and bliss. Nothing else you can't dismiss. Legs between the lines where books and romance intertwine. You lost your stories that touch your heart. Legs between the lines, a brand new start. Pages turn stories unfold. Love adventures both new and old. We need you to pass the play.
All right, so I did just add the link, Lex Between the Lines, for her Spotify. I was going to say Spotify um, landing page. So there you guys are. You can access it if you are on Facebook for sure. If you're on YouTube, perhaps. Seems that it went everywhere it was supposed to go. So great. We're using StreamYard. A lot of you guys have questions about which streaming platform to use. For a very long time, I was committed to Zoom and Google Meet. I've used StreamYard in the past before, but once they started going up in price, I was like, all right, I gotta go. I gotta go back to what I know, the tried and true Zoom. But we do have a resource on our website, plantapodcast.com. We have a list of resources actually, but we try to do a comparison analysis of all of the major streaming platforms, letting you know which ones are most beneficial between the features, the budget, and everything else in between. So you can go again to plantapodcast.com. You can look for our community hub and our resource center. Then you can get one for the streaming platforms, one for editing tools, and one for the best equipment depending on your needs. All right. I think I think we covered a lot of the housekeeping. I do have an upcoming webinar on Monday, 10 ways for you to monetize your podcast. You can register for that. That is available on Luma. I will be sure to share that link again by the end of this live. And every Thursday, we do Podcast Power Hour, which is another type of webinar, but this is more intimate and hands on. So I'm taking people through tutorials to create a one page or create your custom GPT, create a landing page or website, and all of those things. Taking them through Taylor Brands, one of my affiliate partners, where we're walking them through the process of getting a business license. So some of you guys are still doing podcasting as a hobby and wondering why you're not getting all the opportunities afforded to you. You need to have a business license. The best way that you can go about it, there are maybe three ways. The old school way, meaning you're piecemealing, going to all of the websites with Department of Licensing, the Department of Revenue, and all of those things and trying to figure everything out in between. You're getting your EIN number and all of those things. Or you could go through Legal Shield. You pay them a monthly subscription to get access to their reps, and they have the access and expertise and the um, ways around getting you your business license. And then you can go through Taylor Brands. Taylor Brands, you can get a business license, you can get the trademarks, you can get the logos and everything under one roof. So that is Taylor Brands. Now, if you want information to that, go to my website. Actually, it's also on Plan to Podcast, excuse me. So plantapodcast.com. We made sure that that was available on both locations. Plantapodcast.com. Again, in the resource hub. All right. So warm welcome and grounding, housekeeping, what's coming up. Okay, today's podcast tip. Why lived experience beats perfect scripting, and then podcasts and industry news, and then light Q&A. So if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. I will be sure to answer them before I end this live. And I do try to be live Monday through Friday, except on Wednesdays at 2:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is something new for me moving into 2026. And I think it's something that we can upkeep. Fingers crossed. And again, I'm on YouTube, Substack, Twitch, and Facebook. All right, let's get into it. The tip: lived experience beats perfect scripting. Now, if I'm honest, you guys, I am somewhere in between lived experience and scripting, especially depending on my time. With my podcast, Plan to Podcast, much of it is me sharing my thoughts and then asking ChatGPT to refine my message and condense it to 5 to 10 minutes. So it's me and my original thoughts broken down, diluted, scaled down to 5 to 10 minutes because I think that is the sweet spot for my platform. Just giving a quick tidbit, quick tips. But in this world of I know that it is extremely important, especially if you're trying to make yourself distinguishable or distinguished amongst other creators in this very quote unquote saturated market. It is to show up authentically, whatever that looks like for you. I think it will show. I think people will recognize that. So even if I do rely on ChatGPT, at the end of the day, if you book a time with me, if you schedule with me, you're going to know that this is something that I breathe, eat, sleep when it comes to podcasting. hmm And you guys, my little kid is sick, so he's at home, and that's part of my content. It's like being very transparent and authentic when it comes to I'm still a creator. I still have my kid at home. He's sick. He's not feeling well. Everybody sends your well wishes for Princeton. Yeah, you can't come over here. I'll be with you in just a moment. Okay. I think he's feeling like it's cuddle time. So, authenticity, showing up and being your authentic self, especially in the day of AI. So, a lot of us are using AI. I use AI for everything I do. Even when it comes to these viral dances, I then started using Kling AI, KLING AI. So, I'm using that just so that I can make things fun and cool on my platform. But there are a lot of people who are already fatigued of posers and coaches and everybody who's using AI or even hiding behind AI, like not want to be front facing, want to have a faceless platform, a faceless channel, and using AI. So I think it's extremely important in this day and age to, if you're going to use AI, use it not as a crutch, but as a way to expand your reach or buy back some of your time or using it as a leverage tool, not as a crutch that's what you lean on and rely on. And now you can't think for yourself. You can't speak for yourself. If somebody was to ask you a challenging question about what you quote unquote know or teach, and you can't answer it without AI, then that is a problem. So show up and be your authentic self, even when it comes to your recordings, your podcast episodes, or what have you. Try to show up and be authentic. Again, I understand, like for myself, I'm not saying this because I don't have experience. I've done probably at this point 9 or 10 shows, and I'll run through the list. I started off with my mother, the Mother and Daughter Duo podcast. Then we went to Follow Me Friday, Life Unscripted with Dani Marie, Throw It Back Thursday, Plan to Podcast, Podcasting for Newbies, um, Talk Tacoma. There was probably one more I'm missing, and then now Host City Hustle podcast. So I've done all of those shows myself. Now, I'll say the reason why I did all of those shows is because I do find podcasting to be somewhat addictive. And then also, I was challenging myself to find my own niche, find my own lane, and get ahead of the learning curves very quickly. As someone who sees myself doing this for a very long time, I wanted to experiment and I gave myself grace to find my lane. Oh, Creator Conversations was another one that I did, which was exclusively on Fanbase, but still considered audio and podcasting. So I did all of those shows. I am probably going to be in this space for a while. I can tell you, I already have an idea for another podcast and I've already been promoting it in certain spaces, but that is not going to come out maybe if at all this year it would come out probably by the fall season. I do have so much going on with Host City Hustle and with Plan to Podcast that I don't know if I could do it. So, but it is a pretty cool and exciting idea. And I say if you are a podcaster, give yourself grace, be flexible, don't feel pigeonholed to one concept, one idea. Certainly try to experiment. But as you're experimenting and as you're pivoting, and this is something that I told my group, I think last Saturday, because some of us who do seasonal podcasts, meaning that you have a break in between seasons, and there's typically like 12 to 13 episodes in a season. Some of us will do a seasonal hard stop and then come back, and there's nothing different about the next season. And so it's like, why did you stop in the first place? If you're going to do that, my recommendation is try to evolve as a podcaster. And so that's what I was allowing myself to do. Permission to evolve, permission to experiment, permission to grow, permission to try different platforms. Um, Another thing that I would recommend in that time and space, some of us as podcasters will pay like a full year in advance on a particular program, software, editing tool, or whatever, and then realize after you pivot, maybe it wasn't the best idea to buy a full year of this thing because now you no longer need it. That happens a lot. So it's entirely up to you, but it goes back to the full premise of what I teach, which is plan, 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 plan. So if you're going to plan a seasonal stop, you should plan to make changes to your podcast. You should plan to make an announcement. You should plan a campaign around the launch or relaunch. And you should plan what platforms you are using based on your need and knowing that you're going to be doing seasonal splits and stops. So plan always. Just like every business needs a business plan, every podcast, in my opinion, needs a podcast plan. And I will always forever say that. Comment plan in the comment section if you haven't started your podcast, but you're looking to get started. Maybe you are an educator, you are a consultant, you are a coach, you have something pressed on your heart that you want to share, you have a testimony, or you have a product, brand, or service that you want to market. Podcasting to me is like another it's social media. It's another extension of showing up and sharing on your social media page. It's just long form content. And then now it doesn't even have to be long form. Like I said, I do podcasts in my sweet spot, 5 to 10 minute long episodes. So it doesn't take a lot of work. And if you're already on social media, you could essentially repurpose some of your content already into an episode, or vice versa. You can take your long form content and repurpose it for short form clips. So it's really not a lot of work. If you have access to a phone or a laptop, you're already covering most of the bases. But the original idea was show up, be your authentic self. And sometimes that means showing up online and rambling until it becomes like second nature, until you feel comfortable showing up online, because that took a lot for me to get to where I am at now. And still, even it makes me somewhat uneasy sometimes to just be talking to a camera and not knowing if it's penetrating and resonating with people. Because now we are all like, we love to like peak, but we don't really be speaking. So, just to put yourself out there is a big deal. It takes a lot of courage. And sometimes showing up and being on live and pushing yourself to do something that makes you uncomfortable is what it takes to help you get over the threshold and cross over to that next thing. Um, all right. So that was the podcast tip. Now, podcast and industry news. So I did not watch the Golden Globe Awards, but I heard that the podcasting has entered in the space. So, for the first time ever, the Golden Globes introduced Best Podcast, and the inaugural award went to Good Hang, hosted by Amy Poehler. Do you guys know who that is? I didn't know until I had to go back and look at her pictures, and I think she had a stint on SNL, if I'm not mistaken. She looks very familiar. Um, Her show launched in March of 2025, which is important, meaning that it wasn't a decade-long legacy podcast. It was relatively new, personality-driven, and conversational. Nominees included Smartless, Armchair Expert, Call Her Daddy, The Mel Robbins Podcast, and Up First. Now, my biggest gripe with this is that it's always biased. It's rarely any specks of color. I don't know these podcasts. I know Call Her Daddy, the Mel Robbins podcast, but I can take a guess that Smartless, Armchair Expert, and Up First, just based on the name, that's not any person of color. So that would be my only gripe, but also we're kind of used to that. So that's why it's important for us as people of color to create our own spaces, and not be so disappointed with what we already know to be true. But I will say congratulations to Amy. Well deserved. I think it's super cool that the podcast only came out March of 2025, not even a year ago. And she's already taking this position. She's already spearheading and dominating in this space. And I will say, I again have not listened to her podcast episode. I'm not too far removed or bougie where I won't go take a listen. I'll go ahead and indulge. But it seems to be a more mature conversation because I know Call Her Daddy, to me, this seems like it's speaking directly to the millennials. Um, but that could just be an assumption on my part. And then I don't know how old Amy is, but I just think it's a bit more mature than like the Call Her Daddy. So I like that. Um, it's even though it feels biased in terms of race, it's still broad in terms of who's listening, what the audiences are, and the host of the podcast, I guess, is my feedback to that. But what also comes out of this news, people are having big feelings about this, including excitement, frustration, and eye rolls, because a lot of indie podcasters um, are looking at this moment and they're thinking, oh, the following: who gets visibility? It seems as though, you know, obviously the powers that be are very intentional about who gets this type of visibility, who gets the credit, who gets these opportunities afforded to them, and what does success even mean anymore. I will say, as an indie podcaster, there's probably a lot of work that you and I can both do to before we see ourselves on a big platform like the Golden Globes, but it's not so far fetched. So work hard, be consistent, show up authentically, have your plan in place. What is your legacy plan? 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Are you putting your best foot forward? Are you constantly trying to improve? Are you trying to get the right equipment? And by right, I mean you have good, but can you be better? And is that in your budget? Or do you need to work harder to try to attain those things? And we can always improve. We're always a work in progress. So, having an honest look and doing a self assessment to check where you are, do your numbers kind of support that you should be on a platform like the Golden Globe Awards? And I mean, like, at the very least, are you getting 10,000 downloads per episode? At the very least, are you getting um, ads? Are you getting sponsors and people to place ads on your platform? That's probably when you're going to start to see this level of success, but it's not so far removed that you won't ever get there and that you can't start working on these small things now to see greater success in the near future. So, again, shout out to Amy. I'm not a hater. I'm just observant, and I have some of the same questions that other people have who have been in social media spaces, kind of critiquing. But then also create your own spaces. What you don't see, you can create. And so don't hate what you don't see, you can create. I like that. That should be on another shirt. By the way, Tanta Podcast does have merch. So this is one of our partners. Their logo is here, Too Hot, and then Plan to Podcast is me. So we try to combine obviously the two forces. It's a strategic partnership, meaning that there's going to be more opportunities to come for indie podcasters, especially if you are connected to me and my community. So again, plantopodcast.com. We're going to be doing hopefully more conferences, more pop-up shows. If you are looking to expand your region and teach podcasting to your area, we're going to be helping you with that. And so again, Plan to Podcast. At the very least, come join us in our Facebook group. And then you'll hear about everything else that's coming down the pipeline. All right, Amy, let's go back to her really quick. Not her per se, but what it implies, what the award implies. It is a sign that podcasting is now officially culture shaping media. So if you guys are just tuning in, I'm seeing numbers go up on other platforms. We're talking all things podcasting. We try to include podcast industry news. And right now we're talking about Amy. I believe she was on SNL, but she now has the podcast Good Hang. A good hang. What do you guys think that implies? I guess just a good time, a good hangout, good hang. I don't know. Hosted by Amy Fuller. Other people that were in the category or other podcasters, Smart Less, Armchair Expert, Call Her Daddy, the Mel Robbins podcast, and Up First. So what does this mean? Congrats to her, but who cares? What does this mean for us? It is a sign that podcasting is now officially culture shaping media. Awards follow influence, institutions validate what already has power. That's the part. Institutions validate what already has power. So, again, going back to, are you the type of platform that people will be ranting and raving about? If you're not, you need to go back to the drawing board. You need to have a plan. Podcasting has reached that point. But the uncomfortable truth is when podcasting enters award spaces, it also inherits responsibility. So, responsibility with the level of content that you produce. Will you show up and be honest, be truthful? Will you have a podcast that is based in integrity? Will you be misleading? Will you share important information? Will you educate? Will you empower? Or will you rage bait people? Is it salacious in a good way? Or are you, you know, leaving a bad taste in people's mouths? All of those things. There is a responsibility, in my opinion, especially if you want to have a long-term career in this space, there is a responsibility to show up and be responsible with your platform. Having fruitful conversation where you challenge people's thinking and you ask people to think critically about topics, I think that's great. I have a few friends that have podcasts that are like that. Salute to you. But those platforms, like the whole, the red pill, blue pill conversations, relationships, and rage baiting people and all of that. I think that some people like that kind of stuff, but I think that it's going to be short lived. You find that the most people that like it are the people who really don't listen to podcasts for real. Yeah. I thought to watch Ninja Turtles. You try to watch Ninja Turtles? Yeah, I love Ninja Turtles. You do. I can't fix it right now. Can you give me 5 more minutes?
I think that the
If you're not Amy, congratulations, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Podcasting doesn't require permission, awards don't define impact, and community beats virality in 5 minutes.
Well,
Mhm.
I want you to do your practice too.
3? Okay, 3 minutes. Community beats virality every time, and what wins long term isn't celebrity, it's trust. So you can have a community of people who believe in you, who champion your message, and who always come back to you no matter what else is happening in the world. They're going to rely on you, especially if you're consistent. You establish rapport, you probably educate, you go above and beyond to make sure that everybody in your community is taken care of, whatever that looks like. Um, that is what I try to do. That's what I strive to and aim for every time. And hopefully one day you guys will see. My goal is not to be the biggest podcaster. My goal is to be like the biggest network or right up there with the biggest. Um, and for indie podcasters, just helping everyone that is often overlooked, the underdogs. So that's my goal. And it doesn't mean that your goals might look different. I don't aim for these spaces. Doesn't mean that you might not see me in those spaces at some point, but it's not a goal that I have. So I don't really wrap my brain around those things. I think about what's in my control, what's in my arena, who is in my network, who am I building with in my community, who do I have direct access to, how can I change circumstances today, how can I help somebody today, how can I impact just one person today. So my goals may be a little different than yours, but maybe your goals are to get on those kind of platforms. And you have to do a self assessment to determine if you are up to par, if you're there. If not, connect with me. Again, I gave you all of the information to connect with me, plantopodcast.com. The best way to connect is just joining our Facebook group for starters. That way you get a feel for the community we're building. You get a feel for me. There is an option for you to ask a question. If you go to that website, to the far right is ask a question. There are, again, tools and resources that are available to you no matter what stage you're at. We have something for everyone. We have services for everyone. We have resources for everyone. We try to meet everybody where they're at in terms of, like I said, we meet every Thursday. I do a podcast recording every Wednesday. And then I do a live every day of the week, except on Wednesday when we have our live podcast. And then we do challenges every so often. Like I said, the webinar on Monday is going to lead people to another challenge that we're going to do. So tap in with us. We want to hear from you. We want to support you on your journey. We love podcasting. Um, I think that's it, you guys. My kid said I had 3 minutes, so I made a commitment to my son. Now, typically, I would try to be on here for a little longer, but my son, like I said, is sick. So go back and catch the replay. If you're watching this live, type live in the chat. If you're catching the replay, type replay. We want to hear from you. If you've been thinking about starting a podcast and you don't know where to get started, of course, reach out. I said I would go back and answer some questions. Let me see if any came through. I love this question. Tez the Five said, "What would I consider success for myself as a podcaster?" Um, I think for me, I have my master's degree in educational leadership, and I thought maybe that meant I would be doing something in a school. But the fact that I can take that same degree and teach people about podcasting in a time and space where there are people who are trying to literally erase history and erase our stories, and I mean Black people. That's day one. That's what I will champion always and forever. There are people out there who want to erase our stories. They want us to shut up and comply. They want us to forget about the things that are extremely important to us as a people. So just to see podcasters who come from my tutelage, my teaching, my group, my community, and they're doing amazing things with their platforms and they get to the level of success that they aspire towards. That makes me happy. I do so much behind the scenes to help people and many times don't even need or require a thing. That's because I genuinely love what I do. I love seeing people in their ideation phase and then seeing them move from ideation to now they're scaling or they've launched and now they're scaling and then now they're talking about how can we add more more opportunities, how can we make this bigger, how can we monetize, and so just to help them bring their ideas to life and then see their platforms thrive. I work with people who have sports podcasts. I work with people who have spiritual and religious podcasts. One of my favorites right now, shout out to Coach Memory. Her platform is about the breakdown of the Black family. And so listening to her content sometimes makes me chuckle. It's like bittersweet. I'm laughing and I'm sad at the same time to hear how far removed we've all gotten from the nuclear family and where we are at today. Everything just feels fragmented and fractured, especially within Black families. So hearing her chastise us in her content, but she's so spot on and she does it so gracefully. And her whole thing is like elderhood with a play on the message. Like we should be listening to her as young people who are coming up underneath her, so that we don't get it wrong. We can get it right because maybe the our parents and their parents, maybe they got it wrong. So we have an opportunity with our children to get things right. So just hearing her message, speaking from her personal anecdotes and talking about how important the Black family is and how far removed he's gotten. And I'm sure her platform is going to do amazing things because it's like, it's tough love. We need that. We've been so coddled and we've gotten so far away. So, to answer the question, Tez, thank you for that question. Success to me looks like, at least for 2026, we'll put a number on it. If I can help 100 podcasters launch, grow, and start monetizing, and maybe they don't hit all three pinnacles, but maybe, hey, Lofton, thank you for tapping in. This is my first live on Substack. Um, but maybe they don't hit all pinnacles in this year. But at least if they've launched and they're trying to scale or they're trying to monetize their podcast, that makes me happy. And that's what I work to do every day. Leonard says, oh, he didn't ask a question. He made a comment. I'm checking my chat to see if there's any other questions. We're on Substack, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Oh, what's going on? Hello, Nikki. Thank you for tapping in. Hello, hello, hello. There are no other questions, but it's good to hear from many of you. I'm going to try to make this a thing now. Like I said, on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Substack, we try to be live Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, 2 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But like I said, my son came in here about 2 or 3 times and he was like, it's time to wrap that up. He's sick, so he stayed home today and yesterday. So it's time for cuddles. And I hope you all have an amazing afternoon, amazing evening, no matter where you are in the world. I just hope you have an amazing day. And I'm Dani Marie, and I'll talk to you guys on Thursday. Bye. Thank you a lot for your support and whomever else. I don't know who else is on here, but I do see 2 people. So I appreciate you guys. I will be here, like I said, on Thursday. And hopefully make more friends here on Substack. I'm just trying to find my way over here on these Substack streets, but I love it here so far. Have a blessed one.